Welcome back to Personal Trainer TV. I'm your host, John Spencer Ellis, with Marilyn and Al Sargent of Success Design International and the Spencer Institute for Life Coaching. Today we're going to talk about how people are motivated. And there's two divisions, we'll call it, internal and external, and away from something and towards something.
Right.
Okay. So, quick example. I'm tired of being fat and I want my spouse to think I look wonderful. What is that?
Well, it's away from and external reference. So it's away from being fat, but it's not saying what I want instead. So when the fighter say, so if you're not fat, what will you be instead? So it creates something to fill in the gap, in a sense. And then having my spouse think I'm attractive, that may or may not happen. And it's depending on somebody else's opinion, or it might happen. But if it doesn't, then the person falls off the program.
Your potential gratification is if someone else thinks something.
Yeah. Right.
So it's external.
Yeah. And it's nice if somebody does as a validation, and it's not very effective for a consistent motivation.
Okay. So when you're working with someone and you want to know if they have an internal or external frame of reference of something, what's a great qualifying question?
So if they're inquiring about my program,
sure.
And they might say, so is there in the past when you took, and I might reference something that I know that they took or whatever, and I say, how did you decide that? Mm-hmm. And they'll say, well, I asked 10 people and they said that it was important. Or I might say, how did you hear about me? Well, I looked it up on the internet and I decided to call you. So that's more of an internal reference. If they say, well, my friends were talking about it and they said I should really give you a call. That's more of an external motivator or reference or authority.
Like 4 out of 5 dentists surveyed said.
Yes.
That's an external reference.
Okay.
So we're looking for, am I the authority on me? Good information gatherer, because people want to call and get information from us. However, do I decide, or does, a conglomerate of other pieces of people or information make me do something? And then I don't have any internal motivation on my own. So as a personal trainer, if someone has an external motivation strategy, you can really influence them because you say, this is the best thing for you to do according to me.
If they feel that you're the authority.
Yeah, if you're
but
the
not
authority.
the guru, right, Al?
Not
a
the
guru,
guru.
but
No
an authority
gurus.
and perhaps a qualified expert.
And so if someone is internally more referenced, just say, now, I know you'll make the best decision for you, and this is what I would recommend. So you're saying, I understand you need to make this decision. I'm just giving you the information to help you make it.
Now, people will, and I'm generalizing, will generally say or give hints to whether they're moving away from something or towards something.
Right.
People who have had a lot of challenges and struggles in the past, and again, I'm generalizing, I've probably tried to move away from something, and I would say people who have been very accomplished, like athletes, are probably moving towards something a little bit more. I'm generalizing.
And I think it's probably a good generalization. The thing that is interesting to me is I don't think you can really have an effective motivation strategy unless you have both. I know a lot of gurus will say, just believe it, go for it, do it, and all that. And that might be useful, but it also might be unecological or dangerous to the person. So if you get somebody that's just moving towards something, they may step on landmines getting there. And if you get somebody who's just moving away from something, they never get to experience maybe the joy in life because they're too busy sidestepping every issue that comes to them.
Well, I always give this example. And also, you can't move away from something without moving towards something else.
Exactly.
If you're doing one, you're also doing the other.
Well, I like to refer to it as trying to jump back into an airplane. There's nothing to push against. And that's frustrating. That would be frustrating and scary.
If you are, and again, we need balance and we need perspective.
Yes.
If you are always moving away from something, though, like let's just say it's not true. But if you were something or someone that I'm moving away from, I'm looking at you. I know I don't want this. I know I don't want this. Boom! I run into something else that potentially could be something that could be good for me.
Yeah, I call it backing into life.
Yeah, and I apologize for using that as a reference. I didn't see something physical there.
Yeah, right. Hold the wallet.
Okay.
And it's like driving, looking in the rearview mirror. It's important to know what's behind you and where you've come from and what's going on, and you want to be focused on where you're going. So we need both.
Right. Now, how does this play into the big scheme of things for a coach or a personal trainer? How are they going to use this information we're talking about? Why do they care?
Well, I think one of the things, once again, you go back to just how does the person relate to their world right now in that situation? And it's also, if I'm working with Marilyn and all she has got is a moving away from, I might want to introduce, okay, so when you no longer have that, or when that's no longer the case, what will there be instead? Because the motivation towards something pleasurable can be much more desirable than moving away from something. And so I would want to be able to more or less pace where she is in her thinking, but I also want to introduce the options of something possible. I also want to make sure that it's ecological. I know people who want to get out of a relationship and they get into another one just like it because they don't know what specifically they're moving away from.
You know what? We were going to cut this show right here, but I tell you what, you touched on something I think is so important, and you know what that is personal ecology.
Right.
That's something that you brought to my awareness. How do you describe personal ecology?
I think it's a matter of respecting the system, whatever the system is. I mean, you think about ecology with the forests and the lakes and the ocean. That's a system, and we have to honor it. And when we work with ecology with an individual or a relationship, we're also working with if I get on an exercise program and change my diet, what influence is that going to have on Marilyn? It may be positive, may not be positive. And so I have to analyze, what is that? Is it for the greater good? Mm-hmm. And I think the greater good is probably my definition of ecology.
And you've explained it to me in other terms that resonated with me, and that is that it is knowing your effects on people, places, things, and animals, Earth, now and in the future.
Got it. Yeah.
And I think people understand it now to some extent. What we don't do, and again, I'm generalizing, often enough, is understand the externalities or the secondary effects of our actions going forward.
Right. And it creates respect that way, and it also is awareness. If I do this, how will that affect other things?
Some people may call it karma.
Yeah. Well, this example came to me a couple of times, so I'll just share it real quick. In the Florida Everglades, they brought in the Melaleuca tree, which is not native to North America. It's from Australia. And they did it to dry up the marshes to build homes, basically. Well, now they can't control the Melaleuca tree. It's running rampant. It's destroying a lot of the natural features, the salt water in the old freshwater systems. And it's killing manatees and things like that.
Wow.
It has a long-range effect. Now, to get rid of the Melaleuca or to control it, they're considering bringing in natural enemies to the Melaleuca tree. Fortunately, they're doing more studies on it before they just bring it in. And so knowing the long-term effects of violating an ecology take a lot of more effort to fix than the original problem.
Google ecosystem and microcosm to get a better understanding. And sometimes we go off on tangents, but I think the stories are relevant and poignant, and there's always a take-home message. Marilyn and Al Sargent from Success Design International, and I'm John Spencer Ellis. And remember, you saw it right here, personal training.